fat. Now, when it comes to fat, there are different types. There is fat within the skin called subcutaneous fat, and then there's also visceral fat. What visceral fat is essentially fat around the organs. Having too much of this visceral fat can cause a lot of problems. What happens is that over time, an accumulation of visceral fat can lead to things such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, stroke, heart attack. It's thought that the proteins from the visceral fat leak into your system and essentially cause damage to not only your organs, but also the blood vessels and just increase inflammation overall. So working on reducing our visceral fat in the long run is really important. So what are the common things to do to lose visceral fat? Well, the age-old treatments of diet and exercise still apply to this. So regular, consistent exercise is really going to be important. And it's not just the fact that you're going to do some cardio exercise, such as running and maybe dancing or jogging. Those things are all great. But in addition to that, you actually also want to be able to do some weights, some resistance training. So you're building muscle too as well, because muscle is more metabolically active, can help you burn fat faster too as well. So combining the two are really important. There have been some suggestions with marathon runners who are running a lot tend to have higher amounts of visceral fat. So changing that to sprints, for instance, may make a huge difference in reduction of that visceral fat. So you may ask, well, how easy it is to reduce your visceral fat? Well, one of the things we always talk about is diet. And so eating the right kinds of things are important, and different diets can be different for different people. But ultimately, having more vegetables in the diet certainly is really important, but it may not necessarily work for every single individual. I would definitely recommend increasing protein in the diet for sure, definitely having a lot of vegetables in the diet. Getting rid of processed foods, and processed foods are things where you typically find them in the grocery aisle where they are boxes of whatever foods that you might consume. And typically these cause more issues more often than not. So you want to try to avoid those processed foods, fried foods for sure. One type of diet that may be helpful, at least on a short-term basis, is intermittent fasting. That can be more of like the 16-8 variety of fasting, where you're fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8 hours. So obviously you want to check with your doctor and make sure that this is okay to do. For those folks who are able to tolerate it, it can really help people lose fat and lose weight much faster. Sleep is also critically important. If you are not sleeping, your hormones are getting dysregulated, and then what happens is that you accumulate more fat. So making sure you're getting the proper rest is really important. So you want to put away your computers, your phones, anything electronic that may keep you up, or other activities that may keep you up from not allowing you to get that kind of sleep that you want. Stress reduction is also really important. So high levels of stress lead to cortisol, so you tend to hang on to more fat and more visceral fat. So reducing your stress, whether it's through exercise, meditation, prayer, whatever it is that helps calm you, you definitely want to be able to work on those kinds of things. Reduction of alcohol consumption. Alcohol has also been linked to increased amounts of visceral fat, so reducing alcohol or eliminating it altogether would be a great thing to help you reduce that visceral fat. Is visceral fat hard to lose? That's another question that people ask. Well, sometimes it can be, but if you're not consistent with the diet, the exercise, and certain things I just mentioned, then it can certainly be more difficult to lose. Sometimes you may need additional help to try to help along to make this better, essentially, and that may require even being on medications for a short period of time. Many of those medications obviously have been on the market for the last few years and are currently a bit popular, but you definitely want to be able to combine the diet, the exercise, the reduction in sleep, in addition to the medication, if that's something you do get prescribed and you do have the indication for getting that medication too as well. One of the other questions that gets asked often is what foods can help you burn fat? And there's no great food, essentially, that does that, but there's been some link to vitamin D. So things that have a lot of vitamin D in it are things such as green leafy vegetables, for instance. Dairy is also another source too as well. However, you got to be mindful of dairy too as well, because it can also be very inflammatory to the body and cause other problems too. Apple cider vinegar sometimes has been implicated in weight loss and fat reduction, so that's something that also can be utilized too as well. So hopefully you guys found this video very helpful. Please like or share this video if you found it helpful, and we look forward to seeing you next.